Hello, Wade Cox here, and welcome to the Ski with Wade podcast. I've been involved with this sport of water skiing for over 40 years now. I was fortunate enough to be a professional, and now I'm a full-time water ski coach. Today's guest and I will be talking about water skiing. We'll also be talking a little bit about travel and maybe a little about life as well. Thanks for joining us today. Ski with Wade, cut more rope. Hey guys, welcome. Ski with Wade podcast. A little Wade's World with Igor Nikolić. Is I pronounce that properly?
You nailed it, man.
Right on. So what I have here is the world's tallest slalom skier.
We're adjusting.
7'1", correct?
7'1",
Yeah.
yes.
Wow. And he's not just the tallest, he's not bad either. We'll get back to that. So we are here in Lake Martin, Alabama, and we're in one of the resort cabins. And if you haven't been here, it's a bucket list type deal for.
It's more of a gamble. You got to get it a year ahead. But yeah, welcome to our humble abode today. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
no furniture, but
I came to about maybe 10 years ago, the first time, and. So our sponsor, Russell Marine, who've got 3 massive locations, boat dealerships. I've done actually a little Instagram vlog walking around their store because they've got basically everything you would need for your boat. If you got a rental, you can rent from them. They'll fill it up. So they're sort of captain of the ship, Doug Hamrick.
Absolutely.
So Doug years ago said, "Hey, you got to come," and then the guy that just called your phone, Don Kelly, I saw him over at Callaway Gardens at the U.S. Masters, and he goes, "Hey, I hear you're coming to my place. You got to meet this guy, Igor. He's my ski buddy." So he told me about you. So your sort of reputation and your height preceded you.
Well, thanks, but those guys are absolute legends here. I mean, especially Don. I mean, he dedicated his whole life to water skiing, and Doug is as good of a host he is. I mean, every year I come here, from my equipment breaking, and he loans me like an HO binding to finish the whole vacation, right? Or pulling us on a demo boat every year, and just having that experience here. This lake really feels like home. I never could afford a house at the lake, but this is the closest I get to it.
Well, so move that a little bit closer.
Yeah,
so a little bit of history here. The Lake Martin Water Ski Club that Don is a member of forever. There was a few jumpers back in the day. I think the club won 5 national jump titles in a row. The boys level, is that correct?
I believe so. That was like mid-70s?
Yeah, mid-80s.
Mid-80s.
Yeah, because it was,
yeah.
I may get this wrong, but it was John Massey, Eric Watts, Chad Wiswall, J.D. Wiswall, and I think there was one more. It might have been John's older brother, Jim, but it was this, incredibly historic run that this small little ski club would produce 5 national champions in a row.
Oh, not only, that site, the way I understood, there were people lined up for like hours before the show, and they were all there to watch the show. We've been at the slalom course, right, across from the Collage. And from what Don is telling me, it was historic, like just epic events, like people just partying all day just to watch. And that's what this sport kind of misses now, like at least here. Like I always
sure. Well, so
now, don't make him come watch the tallest skier. That would be bad. Yeah. I cannot do that kind of show.
But you gotta look on the map, and the pilots talk about it. The space shuttle people go. No, you can see Lake Martin from space.
It's 800. It's almost 780 miles of shoreline.
And
beautiful.
And from one boat dock to the next, maybe an hour and a half, 2-hour boat ride.
Yeah, if you do the whole U shape, yeah. But interestingly, I can take a 5-minute car ride to go ski with them at that course. There's another course. Like the reason I come here, there's a course that we call it Don's course, right? But he's just such a nice guy that actually neighborhood allowed him to keep it in there. There are all these. I'll never forget. We would go early, like the fog was still on there, and we were skiing. And I swear we're like just about to go, and there's this fishing boat 50 miles an hour just straight at us. We heard it, then he just shows up and swerves around us. But the whole neighborhood really has to go out close to the ski course.
Public lake skiing. Hey, we're talking to you, Ham Wallace, there in East Tennessee. Yeah, man. Yeah. That's part of the trials and sort of tribulations of
Correct.
Public lake skiing, but
not just the skiing inherently dangerous. It's actually
right.
Yeah, we saw a deer. We skied late in the year. The water was low, and Don is pulling him in the course, and he's waving. I thought something was wrong, and he's pointing, and there were antlers, like huge, like a 5-point deer, which I had no idea they can swim that well. Like it was just swimming, shooting across. And I literally skied maybe 10 feet from, because Don had to get out of the boat guides. It was just out of the way. And but we always like to ski late because the water drops towards the end of the year. Like, this is actually the best time, other than the hurricane. Yes, every time Wade is here, we get some nasty weather. Your clinic 5 years ago, we canceled the course. We went and did open water park.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So I didn't mention that that Igor's from Serbia. Your wife's from Serbia originally, and we're gonna get to where he went to school, because that's a big part of his sort of background. So first of all, please go to skiwithwade.com. Check out my merch. Got stickers as well, towels, hats.
After today, he has the shirts in tall sizes.
Yes. And sometimes you got to stretch them down if you dry them too much. So also I have a YouTube channel, which this will air on. So please like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you'll know when the next podcast drops. So anyway, let's cut right to it. When did you start water skiing? What was that magic day that your life changed?
So for me, I thought it was really early. It was 6 years old. It was 2 skis. My dad being my dad, I saw a photo of me with that same ski rope when I was 21. That he complained that I was like pulling too hard on the rope and he broke. Then I saw the picture of me with 2 skis in the water with that same exact pattern on the rope that rotted out. But started when I was 6.
So in Serbia?
In Serbia, yes. I'm from Belgrade, which is the capital, and we're fortunate that we have 2 rivers that meet. The Danube, like, flows through Belgrade. It's a part of Belgrade called Zemun. It's like a historic part of Belgrade that. We were really lucky that we had this big island that just the way the rivers meet, it just pushes the water, and there's this like really nice sandy beach that actually they call it Lido, like in Italy. And my dad was a teacher, and we spent pretty much every day of the summer, the temperature-wise, June 23rd was the time we go out, and until September 1st when the school would start.
Nice, I love that.
Yes, we would go upriver, ski as far as we could, then we would go, there's a bunch of friends, all of the like-minded folks. What I really liked about it was just that whole camaraderie of water skiers. Some folks were snow skiers as well, so then that kind of got, pushed on to me, like, hey, this is something you should try. And I started slaloming when I was 8.5, so that took me 2 years to do it. But which is really, I got my daughters way earlier than that. But for a kid who, we were kind of lucky that my dad had a 150 horse Merc, like inline 6, which he still owns. I think 300 hours on it. So, but we were only using it strictly for skiing, saving gas by running downriver, things like that. When the gas got scarce, right? We had some issues there during my childhood, but fun stuff. Like we would go eat as much as we could, and those people, like, some of them were drinkers. Then they would go and have these spectacular crashes. And me as a kid, I was always kind of weary and scared of it, and just kind of having like, I was in the back. But then, once you come here and you see that, watching, like, I'll come to that as well, I guess. Like, you guys were just a big part of us growing up in Europe.
Well, so let's talk about 2 things. Growth. When was your big growth spurt? And then the second sort of that led to basketball.
There was really no spurt. I was born tall, I think. I was 64 centimeters when I was a baby. I was a huge baby. I'm the only child, so my poor mom, I think that was it.
That was it, one and done.
One and done. Yeah, she was one and done. I've always been tall in the elementary school.
Were your parents?
Not quite. Apparently, I had an uncle back in the 40s, 50s, who was, I think, 6'11", on my mom's side. My dad is actually more like a strong guy, like really thick-chested, like super strong. He could be like a power lifter. But he's 6'2". He is, I guess, tall. Mom is 6'1". She's kind of lanky. He had a torso. I mean, I have a girly waist. You can't see. But at this point, that's just how it goes.
No, he's got the slalom skier build.
Oh yeah, Todd.
Lean and mean. Yeah, right.
The swerve master. Oh, the shirt, the build. This came from.
So I got some Carl Roberts. This is my last podcast. He says, "Man, I love statistics and love when you go there." So here's a statistical fact from my producer Lisa. 7.4 billion people in the world. There's an estimated 2,800 that are 7 foot tall.
That's at this moment on Earth?
Yes. So,
wow. How many water ski?
So next, I even
Did
thought,
she do her homework, Lisa?
I said, let's push it further and go, how many of these 2,800 are actually water skiers? So for you stat majors out there, 7.4 billion divided by 2,800, that's 0.00038%.
Wow.
The chance that you'd be 7 foot tall.
See, that explains why I really can't do it consistently all the time.
Well, we'll talk about that. Steven Nouveau, I've got that. He's our tallest pro slalom skier today that I know of. Any 6'7".
How far, Austin Abel? How tall is Austin?
He's about the same, about
Okay.
6'7".
And Parrish?
But Chris Parrish, the tower, is only really like 6'4", 6'5". He's just got big shoulders and sort of a big
The tower got
air about him, you know.
Well, I'm shrinking now with my back issues, right? Apparently, like as I'm getting old.
So I got to slalom ski back in the day with Ronnie Cycli, who's a basketball player like yourself, and the same to sort of date that, Henrik Larsson, who's now Miami Ski Nautique, he said, Wade Cycli just got traded to the Orlando Magic. He knew I was a basketball fan. So he goes, we're going to hook you up and get you to go skiing. And they're like, hey, same as this gentleman. He goes, he's not bad. So
nice.
That day he ran 28 off at 34. And I saw one thing in particular that just resonated with me beyond was I saw him late off of ball 3 coming into 4. And man, I could, so we're looking at these statistics. I could almost lay down the statistics of the chance that a normal guy would have to complete this pass. But he comes off the second way going out to 4, and there's this massive this reach.
Cranking it?
Yeah, and then he gets around 4, and I'm like, oh, man, he might get to 5 now. Maybe. There's no way he's going to get to 6. He says sort of the same, out to 5. Comes around, he makes connection, gets stacked, we call it, out of 5, makes it to 6, and I was sitting there laughing. I'm going, okay, what if someone comes along that's got sort of a fast twitch muscle set that's not 6'3", you know, that is your size? Like what? Then all of a sudden we change the sort of realm of possibility compared to what slalom skiing has been, which is a 6'3", 180-pound guy.
Look at Nate, right?
And if you're $160 like Nate, or you're $195, you're sort of still in the belt, close enough to the top of the bell curve. As soon as you're really, really light, really, really small, like we had Brianne Dodd way back in the day. She's this 5 foot tall girl that's 100 pounds that can run 38 off. And I just said, look, we don't even have any equipment for you. We need to sort of reshape our thinking.
That's where I was going. You would need to change the equipment. That's literally where I was going.
That's where we'll go. We'll get there.
I'm surprised Cycli he's like 250 or so. He was
he's a big guy.
What ski did he ski?
He had the biggest issue was his bindings. You know, just
I don't knock on wood.
Yeah. So,
I have Doug Hemrick for that. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk about your basketball, your growth. So every basketball guy gets asked this question. When did you dunk it for the first time?
7th grade.
7th grade.
It was a challenge. It was a challenge. It was just like watching you guys ski. It's like I was not a wimpy kid, maybe initially, but I was into athletics. Always try to do stuff, riding bikes, basketball, all those things, you know. But unless somebody's really pushing you to do it, you can't do it. And friend of mine is here today. He was the one who was challenging me to going and actually playing basketball early in the morning and things like that. He couldn't dunk it, but we had a guy in our school who did it. But he did it in a goal that was about 2 inches lower. So like we kind of nixed it. I was like, that's not it. You have to do it
comes with an asterisk.
Yeah, it was
right?
an asterisk. And then, so I had a chance. I was the first one to do it on the big one that had a net too. So my finger got caught and all that. But yeah, it was 7th grade.
Wow. I was late 9th grade. But once I did start dunking, it was never like that easy.
It never is easy. Okay, so I'm 7 feet, and it doesn't come easy. Like I don't know. I'm not a typical like a power center. I was more of actually a power forward. I was right. I keep saying I was ahead of the game at the time because back what I was doing then cost me some of the playing time. My coach will watch this. I will point out to this time point.
That's coming.
Yeah, it was literally he called me poor man's Dirk Nowitzki. Right, in a way, because that's what I was trying to do. I was
Dirk, who sort of reinvented the 7-foot position in basketball.
He did, but I was kind of like on the pioneer side of things. I was shooting threes. I was one of the 3-point shooters on the team. I had the highest percentage, but it worked well for the year or two until people figured out that, hey, I am a shooter, actually. So they would come and cover for me. We had some plays that were for me, like it was, Cedric, something that I would come off the top of the key, the guard would go. I was wide open. I think I was making about 50% of them at the time. I mean, I did have a couple of dunks. It was memorable. It was good, right? But overall, like I was always outside of my envelope because it's like, as you say, there's not typical 7-foot skier out there, right? Well, 38. That looks like a 38 off, actually, when you look at it. 38 off, bunch of zeros, right? The percentage. That's what I'm striving to do. That would be something if through my lifetime I get to actually run it, I would be extremely happy. And it's one thing doing it in an open, that's skiing, but to actually run it in the course in a tournament. That would just be a dream, but
so we'll are you skiing any tournaments?
I have entered just 1 or 2 in Alabama, just local, and it was the same way. Nobody expected that I think I had a trophy or whatever. It wasn't. It was in my friend's lake, the Billy Buck Lake in Alabama. It was a beautiful site.
Oh, I've been there. It's an absolutely beautiful lake built up on top of the hill.
Absolutely. It's wonderful. It's just his own private lake, and he was gracious. I skied there several times. I was glad to be invited and all. But that was my daughter did better than I did. So
well, so that's lake is over in Birmingham where you actually reside.
Correct.
And you played round ball. We've been talking a lot of basketball for University of Alabama, Birmingham.
Yes, UAB Blazers.
UAB Blazers.
Go Blazers.
And you can go check it out on Wikipedia. They were a mid-major before they were being labeled a mid-major.
Correct.
Because I remember I graduated high school in 87. In the early 80s when I wanted to play college basketball. So I'm super jealous that he got to do it because, I was like, I was maybe going to go to...
there's a goal around here, right? We have a goal right here. That one is like 4 inches above. They made it so no one can dunk. That's one the park ranger did ask me not to dunk on it. They raised it up so the kids wouldn't break it.
Right.
So when I showed up a couple of years ago, they told me that, not to go dunk on it. Not to break it.
Well, they won't have any issues with me trying to dunk because, I've lost any ability to go up that I had is gone. So let's talk about that. Your first trip to the States, was that related to basketball or vacation?
Just basketball. I strictly came here to play ball. That's what I wanted to do as a kid growing up in Serbia. I played on a couple clubs there before I got here. Had some really memorable teams and results. We were champions of like junior champions of Yugoslavia several times in a row. I was always, I don't know if blessing occurs. I was always, based on my height and some of the like technical skills, I always I was pushed to go with like stronger, older generations, which sometimes cost me because physically, like I had to try to keep up. In a way, that's what drives me now to stay active and do stuff. But it was really tough growing up, trying to play with 2-year-old kids. But I was already kind of like a little flimsy. Like I was growing so fast that my muscles could never catch up.
Right. So, did you make national teams?
I was in the cadet selection back then. That was like the early years on, and then
junior ball.
It was junior, and then I moved on to different teams. It's just the European style. Like we don't do high school or college. Right?
That's what I was going to ask.
So you have these junior teams, and by the time that again I started playing with the older guys, I didn't get enough playing time early on. when they made those selections. Because if I kind of wasn't that tall, I would probably have better chance of because I would be playing a lot. But basically, like I have a friend of mine who's now assistant coach at Golden State Warriors. They won the championship last year, and he, on the other hand, he stayed in his selection. He's known. He still has a world record. You can do this on Wikipedia. His name is Dejan Milojevic. He's the assistant at Golden State Warriors. He scored 141 points in a game. And I played on that team, not with him, but I was in the older selection, right? So I never got to actually be a part of that or do something like that. So the big names, they do, sometimes, it's luck of the draw, how you end up. But I'm happy being here. So, still had a good career.
and you got to, speaking of good career, you got to play for the Barta family.
Yes.
You're the son
absolutely.
Of the legend. If you know basketball at all, there's some of these old school names, Eddie Sutton, Dean Smith, Gene Bartow is one of those.
There's so much history of Birmingham, right? He came from UCLA to start the program, and he was Gene Bartow, late Gene Bartow. He was an athletic director when I was there.
And his son was your coach.
And I was playing for his son during his second year as a head coach. So that was a lot of family history. I played at a place called the Bartow Arena.
Oh, right.
It was just the Bartow's place. It was a great place. It really looked like an arena. Every other place we played, this was just purpose-built basketball. I mean, not by today's standard, but we're talking this was built in the late 90s thanks to the history that Gene built with the program. And then one of my coaches during that time was Andy Kennedy, who was like an absolute legend. He had so much success with SEC.
Florida State guy?
No. He was, he did Cincinnati, Ole Miss. Now he's actually coaching at UAB. Okay. So some of my teammates are now coaches there as well. I'm still kind of tied into that whole scene, but I'm not really, I wish I can, more participate. But I choose my battles. I choose to go here and ski, and I have to work. I mean, I have family, to feed, and it's hard to find spare time when you're almost 50.
Well, Well, let's talk about that. So I grew up a Razorback fan, Arkansas Razorback, and anytime you would go into the tournament, you didn't want to play UAB. If you saw the brackets, you're like, oh man, those guys are so. We just knew they were so well coached, right?
Absolutely. The coaching there, I mean, it was on another level. They had, you could tell. I mean, my coach was assistant to Coach Bob Knight, right? So some of the things we did together with, all the, like I said, our assistant was Andy Kennedy, who immediately when he got his chance to coach, he was well recognized coach. I mean, he's probably on the top 10 coaches right now you can hire. And he's now back at UAB because it's his alma mater. He was the school record holder with 41 points a game. And then he coached a kid who just broke it last year.
Oh, wow.
Which is just crazy to me. It's and then he high-fived him, super happy. It's just, you see how that tradition builds up and how everything is going on.
Well, so let's talk about that before we move on. There's a different sort of chemistry or camaraderie that team sports bring about. And let's talk about that, almost how that helped you for your transition into life.
Oh, 100%. Think about, I came from Serbia, and I haven't even covered that part of the life, right? But there were some tough times that I had to leave behind, but I also had to leave behind my family. I did come with my girlfriend, that did make things easier, right? She's my wife right now, right? We definitely made life work out great for us, right? But that whole transition, you end up in the middle, when you're young, when you're trying to feel what you really want to do, you really don't have your choices. I had to specifically play basketball in order to be in the right status and be a good student, keep all of my grades up, to keep the scholarship, play ball, and then you have to figure out how you now fit yourself in this whole new world, right? I knew the things I wanted to do, but everything was different. Coming from Europe, it's just different. It's people party more, they do different stuff. These guys party in a different way here. I'm no, I have to do my homework, but they're no, come out, because, we would go to hotels and places, and I looked like I was an NBA player height-wise. So there were all these, I don't want to name names, but there were teammates that specifically had to come out of the hotel room just to go into this little club. So I would kind of get a little small group start. They would say, I'm an NBA player, this and that, just whatever fun stuff we did. And, it's a really fun times. I would never change it. If I could go back, those 4 years were really instrumental. There's so much effort. Me coming from Europe, which is a whole different style of basketball, it's a lot more physical here. Again, it helped me sustain that. this is like 120% effort I had to put in. I always talk about suicides. Like it's like one of the, suicide as a drill in basketball, right? It's when you have to run full sprint from baseline, free throw half, another free throw.
Yeah, I did a whole bunch of them.
The bar coach set is 30 seconds. So I'm not the one messing up. It's the other teammates messing up, specifically point guards, and I can name the name. And you have to make that in 30 seconds, which is literally 100% of my effort. And here's this point guard that messed up, and he's just chilling, just like cruising to get the time done. I don't make it. They blame me to do it. So you do have, in an individual sport like this, you can always blame yourself. But in something like this, you have to be a part of the team. And that's what you learn.
that was my next sort of line. You win together and you lose together. And that's like working for a company. If the company has a really bad year and you did well, man, you're probably not going to get a big raise.
No, absolutely. And the whole college sports back then was more oriented about getting you on the right path to have a good career afterwards and so on. I think nowadays, obviously, the NCAA is more open into athletes making money and the name, image, likeness thing, right?
So let's talk about one more thing before we move back into water skiing. So I only played basketball through the 10th grade. And it was actually, didn't even finish out my 10th grade year because I flew to Australia to ski in Moomba.
Nice.
And so that was my transition.
In 10th grade?
Yeah, I was already a really good free throw shooter. And I could, after suicides, I could still shoot and make the front end of a 1-and-1. And my teammates knew that, so they trusted me with the ball late in the game.
Good deal.
But I'm like trying to make the starting 5 in the 10th grade when I won the nationals in the 7th grade.
Crazy.
So I'm like, well, maybe basketball is not my sport, right? So anyway, but what I missed the most is we talked about camaraderie, chemistry, but the bus rides home after a win.
100%.
There's no alcohol, there's no drugs, there's a lot of adrenaline and a lot of adolescence.
100%. That was the fun trips.
Right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I would never sleep, and we would come. And then the next day, if you lose a game, you still kind of lose as a team.
Yeah.
Like we had practices that we were like, they were actually trash cans in the corners on purpose for us to like run till like we hurt, like until we were really exhausted. And we would never do it. We would actually come together stronger or something. It was more perception. Like that's the whole point of that, was just to make you feel like, hey, we all lose as a team, but it's really important to win and get an extra effort.
So let's talk about a couple things here that are going to lead us into your questions for me. So we talked about you're the tallest skier that we certainly know of these 2,800
the
estimated
comments will come
people.
up. There'll be more tall people coming out.
Somebody's going to call me out on this. But let's talk about the differences of being tall in life. Rent-a-cars, airplanes, beds, every single one of those is
possible. I mean, I don't know where to start. I still have the same car that I had in college. I have the seat welded to the floor back then. It's a fun little car. It's a Taurus SHO. It's a sports car. It's really nice the way it is. But I've always enjoyed it. The fact was I could not fit in. My knees would literally hit the dash just like this. And I met some great people again. You show up, people try to really help you accommodate, just like, okay, well, obviously he doesn't fit, the car is good. Nothing wrong with the car, it's him, right? And I had the tracks welded. I would not have, I would have trouble taking it to shops because people couldn't, it's a manual, so people couldn't push the clutch in because the seat is so far back, things like that. You don't think about it. I would go places, like, my wife is always the guilty party for me hitting my head. I go to places and like she really watches out for me because if I change shoes, like most of the house doors are about 6'8". I have this certain trot that I go under the door, right? Yeah. If I get new shoes, I'm an inch taller. Guess what? I have this, you can even feel it. There's like a ridge on top of my skull from me hitting that so many times. It just gets worse. But you kind of learn how to live with it. I mean, my own house right now, even, I can't do anything to raise the ceiling. I had some of my old teammates come over and visit, and the ceiling is just, I said, is that how I look in my own house? Man, I mean, I love the house, I love the neighborhood, but you can't change the seat like this, right? Look at me here. Yeah. Like it's always, it's just a
so stand up here. Well, he's going to go off the screen.
Where?
Yeah, see, there we go.
It's just how it goes. I mean, you learn how to adapt. It's just adaptive. That's about, just like, that's what you learn in sport, right? You learn how to adapt to your deficiencies. You try, same in the course. Like, I know that with my height, that's sometimes a disadvantage. Like, you talk about a cyclist. Like you talk about round cycling and being able to reach. Yeah, I can reach, but that actually creates slack. So sometimes like I'm able to run 32 off easier than 28 off, or like I stop running 22 because he hits my hip. Like I can't do the bump.
You hear that? 32 off he's talking about. So
no, I'm struggling with it now.
So now we're going to get to some questions from Igor. So I said, hey, have 3 ready, and they can be at sort of any topic, whatever you want to ask. So let's hear your first one.
My turn. Well, I'm interested into training. Like I always do a good job preparing myself for the season, but the last couple of years I've really struggled sustaining that strength through the season to prevent injury. Like what is my best course of training once the season starts? And here it could be April through about November, but I come ready in April. I feel strong. I feel nothing. But then when I start making mistakes through the course, I keep yanking certain parts of my body. If I start driving to the lakes longer to get there, my hips start starting up. So my question is, what is through your career, is it better off to kind of take it really easy throughout the season, or should I continue doing the stuff that I'm doing to prepare myself for the season?
No, I think that's a fantastic question, because I actually had a young pro ask me, it was a Wednesday afternoon, and we had to fly out Thursday morning for a Friday event. And he goes, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to go do a little lifting. And it was going to be lightweight. But it was going to be more to activate the opposite muscles that we're not using in slalom. Pecs, sort of some of the, you call it core, whatever you want to call it, oblique muscles, ab muscles. And it's more to activate the muscles. And in fact, the guy I go see now, he's on one of my earlier podcasts, William at the Move Project. It's about muscle activation therapy. And so and then I read about Michael Jordan. I was a basketball, stat freak. And then I saw a video of him literally lifting,
just before the game?
Yeah. But he was bench pressing like the bar and a little bit. He wasn't maxing out. He wasn't trying to build mass. He was just simply, hey, let's activate our opposites, if you will. And I think now I'm training with what Tom Brady does. So if it works for Tom, it's worth a shot, right? So I do a lot of with the bands, a lot of inner and outer thigh stuff, a lot of chest work, the same, just to give my lower back a lot of support. And William explains your body is trunk, meaning lower body, trunk, and spine. So let's make sure that those areas around there are going to protect us. If he trains a lot of pro golfers, if you're taking this mad swing from one way or the other, or same as with us, one foot is in front of the other, one hand is on top of the other. So yeah, there's a lot of like small muscles that need to be worked. And I think a lot of people are guilty of what you're saying, Igor. They get to the lake in April and they ski themselves into ski shape, but then they start maybe neglecting their body off the water. And then I think proper warm up is huge. You start to even going, I skied this morning, I'm not going to do a warm up. I think I learned that as well, that I was able to learn, execute, be consistent when I just did a proper warm up. Simple as that.
Excellent. Yeah, you said opposite side. One of the things I did, I don't know how crazy it is, but I actually taught myself how to do wakeboard with left foot forward to be like my dominant foot. And I felt exactly that. Like my back was actually evening out all the effort.
I said that because a couple of my buddies, Kyle Tate, both his sons are pro golfers, training to be.
Yeah.
One of them's at UCF right now, Go Knights. And I said to William, my strength guy, I said, so basically for a golfer, every single time they take a swing, they need to turn around and swing the other way.
Almost.
He goes, exactly. He goes, but you couldn't. So then that's where, we realize, okay, I'm right foot forward or whatever, left foot, and I'm holding the handle this way. Well, what could I do to help out? Yeah, and that's it. Some light band training. Even for me, when I work out with my son, he's got like the 40-pound dumbbells, doing and I'm like, I need 10s, maybe 15s tops, because I want the muscle to be activated and to get some blood flow. But yeah, I'm not necessarily training for muscle mass and for a lot of slaloms, because you're talking about his lean build. You're gifted. We keep that lean build, but we need to protect the structure.
I do a lot of yoga for that. Like I do some of the yoga stuff with the warm-ups. That seems good. Awesome. I mean, it's longevity. That's where I want to get.
No, well, that's it. But the lighter we can be on the ski itself, the better our body's going to be, because the less drag we're creating. So a lot of our alignment is use what we have, but if we do align it properly, and we use it timing and tempo with the ski, now we are going to be.
Yeah, but stacking is a big issue when you're tall. So that's where I'm going. Like open water, when I actually have my time to set up and stack, it's fine. It's usually when I'm chasing that 3 to 4, I'm behind, just what you said. I end up getting pulled when I'm not lined up. And I know it's not good for me, but like, I just want to run that pass, right? So I'm holding on it for you've done that before. Yeah. I've seen some of the videos of the way that goes. But I'm for that longevity. Like guys like Don Keller we talked about earlier, like for his 60th birthday, you know what he did at the lake? He skied 60 miles around the lake. He had Doug pull him for 60 miles.
That's nuts. 60 miles at 60 years old.
The current Alabama state record.
You're a legend, Don. Holy cow.
Absolutely. Mike Mosley. I don't know if you know of Mike, but Mike is in Alabama Hall of Fame, Waterskier Hall of Fame. I still ski with him. He's 70 years old, and he's still. I'm going to keep doing that.
No, that's actually a great point, Igor, because that's one thing that water skiing, very similar to the sport that I'm into, cycling. Excellent. Where you get, just because you're 65, 70 doesn't mean you quit. That means you're actually cool again. They're like, hey, man, old guys rule. So that's sort of the neat thing about water skiing is that, you can get better. It's not this like football or like we're talking about basketball where, you can't jump anymore.
Don't buy an e-bike. Keep
but no, you can get better. And as technology gets better, equipment gets better, makes it even easier on us.
Good. That's my next question. Equipment. Are you a wide body ski guy, or like everyone seems to be going to wide body skis, but they keep getting shorter? Yeah. And maybe that's something. I mean, I haven't tried that. I'm still skiing on my VTR, right? A few years old. It's about time to change it. But when I do everything right, seems right? But I feel like everyone's recommending me to go to a wider body ski, but they don't make them when I say that 67, 68 seems too short. Just look at my photos. When I go and look at my photos, I look at myself personally. I said, well, that doesn't look like Wade Cox, because you have a lot of spray and you're shorter and the ski looks longer on you. No, I'm like tall with the ski, like really kind of tiny there. What do I do?
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to talk to Mr. Bob LaPointe and see if there's something we can do to sort of custom one you.
Oh my goodness!
Because that's ultimately you're sort of so far off the bell curve.
Yeah, the sweet spot is just different for.
We talked about the little tiny girl, Brienne, and then you're the huge guy on the other end of it.
I can stop a ski if my head goes over it. Like if I actually try during the turn, if I'm too far forward, like the ski will just bury it. Like it will just stop.
But it's funny that you talk about a little bit wider version ski, because that's ultimately, yes, the industry as a whole went too narrow for a while with not enough sidewall.
Correct.
The sidewall, we call that where if you flip the ski directly over 90 degrees, so that got reduced to the point where in some skis it disappeared from the back foot to the tail of the ski. There was no sidewall. And it's like, well, if you lay it all the way over an edge, where is the support? The thing is just sinking down. So the LaPointes figured out early in their career that length of the ski was almost irrelevant. Right. Because you're only skiing on half of it. What is very relevant is the width. How much surface space are you using, and how much do you need? Are you skiing super heavy by general, or are you really light, sort of in nature? Because we have different styles, well, and so
strength is a part of it, right? I can't load as much as Will Asher, right? I mean, it's like
but you only want to load as much as you need.
Unless you really need it.
That's where I'm getting. If you are overloading, you may need a little bit more surface space. And then the result of that, if you're speeding up maybe more because of your setup, because you're actually creating resistance. Mm-hmm. So you're having to ride a little bit maybe wider ski, but then you got to almost put more downforce on it to get it to slow back down when you're, sort of out at the top of the pendulum or the arc. So those are always as a ski builder, as Bob is, and our engineer Dave Wingruder, or me as a coach. I don't really want to know. Yeah, you're 7-1, okay, but I want to watch you and go. As when you sent me that video, I was like, man, your tempo looked quick and light. And that's ultimately what we talked, the beginning of this part was about staying on the water. I get day after day after day, people say, hey, Wade, I don't want to really, sort of knock what just happened. But he goes, I'm working less.
Correct.
I'm like, awesome, because that's what we want. We want to ski longer. So if we can work less, be more efficient, be more aligned, man, it's a lot easier in our body.
Well, it comes down to good passes. The ones that I run easily are the easiest.
Yeah.
It's the ones that hurt me are the ones that I'm trying to save my face and run one pass for the day. It's just not working that day.
And then what a lot of amateur skiers they get hung up on that you think when it feels really, really easy, you think, I felt slow. But it's really, 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 really good chance it felt slow because you were going fast.
True.
You're moving fast enough that you didn't feel the load coming from the boat. But we talked about if the ski's too narrow, it can happen when the ski's too small. But, if we made both skis the same width, and a 66 or a 67, now it's apples to apples, right? Yeah.
Well, I started on 69 and a half, and then the next one is 68 and a half. Now they're saying 67, and they all just seem shorter, and I don't seem to be going.
No, we're gonna work on that because we've got a new project here that is outside the box. So
you make sure this was the other ski I tried. I think I had one for you. This was the ski I had for you and Bob. If you can figure it, maybe you need that to figure that out.
Hey, this is from Pontoon Brewing, One Ski India Pale Ale. So how'd you know this is my favorite beer flavor, India Pale Ale?
Absolutely. That's how I inspire you.
Well,
to make
I
a longer
almost
ski.
don't want to drink this ever because I want to save the can. That is.
Maybe you saved it like we did in high school. We saved your posters in the cans. How about that?
Where is this made?
That is made in Georgia.
Wow, Pontoon Brewing. I love that.
Picked one up.
Well, fantastic. Right on. Yeah. So, hey, last question here. You got any more thoughts? Another question?
Yeah. So let's make it a fun one because growing up, we skied on the Danube. Obviously, not many courses, things like that. But man, we watched you and Andy. I mean, you guys at the 80s, early 90s, right? That's kind of when I was skiing a lot more. It was impressive, those runoffs, those cool things. I mean, you seem indestructible. You could run those passes forever. And then I heard somewhere that, and there's a question for you, is that you run, in practice to train, you would pick next to your best or two off of your best, pass lengths, and then you would run X amount of passes at once, spin it. Yeah. And I heard some number 32 or 36. What is it? No.
I love the way things get so distorted away from the truth. It's I was 32, whatever. Yeah.
I tried it. I got injured. What was it?
No. So Mike Ferraro, who was a coach of mine and was a great influence on my career, he started skiing, slalom skiing, sort of just to train because he was a more of a working man now. Yeah. He was a coach and he was coaching a bunch of wakeboarders. So he would come out and slalom with us, and he'd always ski 6 or 8 28 offs.
At once.
Bang, 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 bang. And as soon as he get through 6, get up, put his arm in the rope, and he'd just go. And he had this cute little hand. Just
Ready?
Spin me around. Yep. So I was like, okay, because I did a bit of that free skiing. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do that in the course. Because, I understood that, if you can run a marathon,
free throws, right?
Running 3 miles isn't that big a deal.
Okay.
Right? So if you got to run a marathon and you can run 50 miles or 100 miles, running the marathon's not that big a deal.
Okay.
So my thought process eventually sort of changed into, well, if I can go out and run it 6-8 times in a row, really tired.
28 off or?
No, that's where it sort of evolved.
Okay.
So it started with doing 28s and 32s, and it started being early in the year when it might be super windy, super cold, and I'd be like, this is a great day to do back-to-backs, we'd call it.
Okay.
And so you don't have to get wet. You maybe get your Neo top on and, do one deep water start or even a dock start and then stay dry the whole set. Nice. And so then my roommate, Ken Atour, we call him Kenny Pro Tour, who was an Eastern national champion and was a great young pro. He started doing it. So now there's 3 of us sort of, and we were, I didn't know many others doing it, but we were into it. So then eventually I get wind that Kenny wants to challenge me. And I don't know, Kenny was 5 years younger than me, and that 5 years matters, right?
To the +1. All he cares is weight +1.
So I made the bet with him, which is completely stupid. But I said, whatever you do, I'll up it by 2, because that's basketball. You got to win by 2, right? And then my sister played tennis, win by 2, right?
That's true.
So he's in the training mode, and we have different. Maybe he was still in school at UCF, and I was out, but we sort of had different training schedules, and he had a different driver. I was skiing in the mornings. He was at. So I find out he's done 10 35 offs. That's impressive, guys.
Holy God.
10 in a row, no stops. And my leg was kind of rolly, too.
At 36,
similar to Lake Martin. At 36,
boy.
Absolutely. So I just started to digest it. I was like, man, I've done 10 32s before, but I got to shorten it and then up the ante by 2. So I had Ronnie Barton driving, or maybe she was watching, and Steve Cockram in the boat. So I trained for it, right?
Okay.
I started tapering back my training late in the week. And like by Wednesday, Thursday, because we didn't have a tournament coming up for a few weeks. So Wednesday, Thursday, I trained really light. So Friday, I'm ready to go because I know I'm going to take the whole weekend off. And after I did maybe 6 or 8 passes, I think Ralphie was driving. He starts doing... He starts doing the Kramer move, and he's stopping short.
Oh,
right?
nice! Yeah.
He's not going all the way out
That's
to
my move.
pre-gates. I'm like, dude, you can't use that move. You got to go all the way to the end, because I'm even not putting my arm through the rope. I'm going around in 6 and ripping the rope between my legs like a jumper.
No clinchers back there. Huh?
So I can rest and I'm breathing. So by the time I got to 10, I'm like, well, I've only got to go one more down and back. Come on, I've got this. So on 11, my back leg, my back calf completely goes.
Oh, yeah,
I've got nothing. It's just almost like having, they call it motocross forearms when they blow up and you just can't grip.
Yeah, pump. Yeah, you get pumped.
So then I was getting the forearm pumped by like ball 4. So I've got literally no legs, no arms, noodles, and they spin short again, and now the lake's like a bathtub, and no breeze at all, no head breeze or tail breeze to sort of give it a little texture. And so I run.
You see the rollers.
I run the 12th pass to do exactly what I said. I'd beat him by 2, and I literally crawled out of the water onto the platform. This was after laying in the back of the water for like 10 minutes, 12 minutes, or whatever. So they finally idle back in, and they're like, I don't think he's going to get up. I couldn't even talk, Igor. I just laid on the back of the boat.
I can imagine.
And so, anyway, we did a 38 off contest at one of the pro events late in my career. Luckily, my back was bugging me, so I opted out. But Jamie Beauchesne ran 7 38s. So I'd done 6 in practice. So I was like, yeah, I'm right there. I'm like sort of, and then I did 339s one day. And the 339s was, I would say, almost the same as the 1235s because it running 35, we can sort of detune it down a lot, where you're maybe
you were cranking it.
Yeah, hitting a lot less, of your max, side to side, where 39 then was heavy. And you were on it max 6 times to run it, so.
Yeah, different skis, you see?
Yeah, no, exactly. The skis have gotten so much better.
But your 12 and 35 was on what ski? That was the
That would
90s?
have been a VTX.
Oh,
it was
VTX.
old school, heavy, 7 pounds, riding on the bottom of the lake. Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Where we made all our own speed.
Yeah, we had a missile. That was a Conley, I think. It was really heavy like that. When my back was hurting, and that's the thing. When my back was hurting, I couldn't even pick a ski up. But then I want to go ski.
Hey, said kids, go in the garage and pick up one of your dad's skis. And you go, wow, this thing is like a dinosaur. Yes.
Yeah, it's different.
They're dinosaurs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so
good.
Hey, I just had a blast here, Igor. This was
100%.
super fun. Thanks so much for sitting down with us today.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. If I can do a special shout out, so I'm this. I'm a fanboy of, obviously, right? But I'm a huge fan of Emma Shears, right?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, my daughter's name is Emma, actually, right? And
I love that. Yeah, Emma, who won lots of pro events, she won slalom and jump on the same weekend. It was impressive.
Beyond that, do you know that she's actually in Australian Hall of Fame as a legend? Now,
I bet.
Tell me,
as
in
all sports. Yeah,
yes,
right.
On all sports, yes. And my daughter's name is Emma. Is like one of those.
Who's
things.
skiing now? Both your daughters are skiing?
They're both skiers, both slalom skiers. So we're trying to keep the sport going. Like I said, Mike Mosley, the guy I ski with, he's the one especially active to keep the sport alive. And that's, wakeboarding's taking over, but we're trying to, impress him, not by falling, but by doing the fun stuff. There's all these, like we already mentioned, Doug and Don, and there's one more family specifically like Steve and Brenda Bigelow who they really allowed me that start. And I think that's one question I kind of did have for you, but maybe we're out of time.
Let's go.
It's literally how do we keep this sport going? What Steve and Brenda did, they ingrained that family slalom like in the course. Like when I grew up, we did this whole water skiing thing. I was so happy just to slalom. My dad was impressed by pushing that fin. He had an old Frary ski, just like 1970s wooden ski. And then when he came back here, I was showing him, like you say, these like light skis with light core. He couldn't get up on it. He's used to the wide old long ski, right?
No, it is. You brought that up. It is completely different just doing a deep water start on the new product.
Yeah. Steve Bigelow had I call it Steve and Brenda have a ski museum because they taught so many people how to ski, right? And I was one of them, right, to really ingrain, this course, like where do you go and what do you do, right? How everything is done. Gates, just they were the ones who started this. Mike cherishes, I cherish working with Mike Mosley because he and his daughter Jasmine, they're amazing skiers, and again, just having like somebody professional look at you helps. That's why I went to your clinic, right? It's one of those. But how do we all who like wannabes like me? How do we get to some environment where we can actually do this consistently? I mean, it's really expensive, right? Not this cabin, not my boat, but in general, how do you get someone from the street who plays basketball with me? And how do I say, hey man, get to my level to see how interesting this really is? Because honestly, if you just pull somebody up, they'll be sore and tired and they'll be like, this is a hard sport. But once you get that buzz the first time, I mean, when I went on my honeymoon, like I didn't tell my wife, but we went to Seth Tischer School in Charleston. It was like, first thing we're going. That's the first thing we did.
But by the way, we're going to just stop off at the lake.
We did, and that's what we did. And I met some more like, younger kids who he was coaching, and I was like, man, that's what I want. I want to be that dedicated, ski rolling on the edge to where I can read O'Brien or HO, right? Whatever it is, right?
Well, to answer that, I'm seeing a lot of these the last 2 years, sort of past COVID, is just simply learn to ski clinics where I'm seeing groups that are whether it's a not-for-profit, a kids group, or whatever, and they're people.
How do you move it away from private lakes? How do you get it to where it's on public lakes where people have access?
Well, that's where a lot of these learn to skis are taking place. Exactly, where you get you use a dealership such as Russell Marine that has exposure.
My daughters did that. That was that. But how do you do it more than once a year? Like, good example, Birmingham had the World Games this year, right? I was hoping to see Emma. Emma couldn't make it. But we had huge turnout. All of the tickets for the slalom event were sold out. But then we have a clinic there, and it's not happening. They're not coming.
It was a unique event. The World Games he's talking about that were held this summer because a traditional sporting group was marketing.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's where we lack in those two areas. Marketing huge, and then that sort of you already talked about the affordability.
Yes.
To begin with, that's a tough deal. So that's where more and more what we're hoping, more and more clubs will sort of donate their time and go, yeah, man, let's do.
But it needs to be affordable. Is it possible to spend like the huge upfront cost among a club to where people have, and it's not just fighting after work that now we all have an hour before the sun comes down and go ski, but to make it to where, hey, it's understood the kids can go first between out of school, 3 to 5, bring the kids there, having 2 hour camp.
No, that's actually a great point because the Lake Norman Ski Club over in Charlotte, North Carolina, they're doing some really, really inexpensive memberships. Fantastic. That basically you get to bring your friends for free and, some really, really good, whatever, a free ski day through the week. And, when you talk about 1 can of gas, how much it is versus 1 pair of gloves. And then, everything. So everything. And then,
now, I enjoy that. And the last thing I'll say, the last group I'll shout, like I lived like your life for a couple of years. I was able to meet these fantastic people at Lake Ada down in Sanford, in Orlando area, right? All through Mike. It's just, it's great. The camaraderie is there. That clique of people who do it is great. And these guys have the conditions like you grew up in, like private lake, do it all the time. And I loved it. And I wish everyone can have it. But obviously not, I had Pat Reagan from Twin Lakes helping me ski, improve my skiing, right? I was running 32, it's easy, Jay Davis, all these people who sit there and they do it day to day. I see their improvement. But then it's what is this? 1 in, what do you say, 7.4 billion, right? 28, that. It's that kind of probability for my friend who I guarantee you, if he tried, he would have been awesome. It's a great snow skier. How do we expose it?
You mentioned it sort of back when your junior basketball route. So much of
good athletes,
whether you're good or not is just your opportunity. If you were behind a guy that was better than you, or you went to the wrong school, or played on the wrong team with the wrong coach, or you had parents that didn't like water, or grandparents that had a bad experience, you never sort of got that. And I think the best blessing is if you can get kids swimming and on boats when they're young. They say it's very similar to church. If you raise a kid in the church, he'll come back. And the same if you raise him on the lake. It's eventually we're having a large part of our growth in slalom skis. And slalom ski sales is growing. Is collegiate kids that grew up maybe on a Lake Martin.
Oh, for sure.
Here going 1 week a year. They get their family vacay at Uncle Igor's, and now they're walking across campus at Cal Poly or San Diego State or Purdue University, and they're like, man, there's a water ski team here. Wow! And the next thing they
see that lake, and then
they've got their own fraternity, and I hear kids all the time talking about their camping trips or going to the football games on Saturday or going to the basketball games in the winter because that's their frat. And I think that's what water skiing does offer, because I talked about the camaraderie of team sports. But water skiing is your family, right, to a point. They're like, oh, if you love boats in the lake, you're good people,
So and there's so many interests. I mean, you're saying talking cycling. I'm a huge cyclist. I've been competing since I stopped basketball. That was my first thing to keep my fitness going, swimming, whatever it is, right? But
it keeps you lean.
It really,
it does.
I saw some of your videos. You're.
I could ride. I could hold my.
Can you do what Jamie Bouchain can do, those little?
Yeah,
ramps?
Well, it was what I didn't want to do is ever get dropped.
Oh, that's absolutely
it's
right.
Cycling, man. That's just, dude. Conserve energy, drink water, eat your snacks, just don't lose the wheel.
But Andy Maple was an amazing cyclist. I remember that. That was like he was Cat 1 cyclist. It's
Same with Will Asher,
Absolutely. We all have these same interests. I think it's all, and like when I'm mountain biking in the winter, I'm thinking of slalom, like the way I'm loading in a berm in a corner.
I love that you brought that up because late in my career, the last 4 years, I was doing a ton of mountain biking. Right. And I rode with Jamie Beauchesne, and he said he learned water skiing through a different set of eyes. He was thinking about water skiing when he was snow skiing. I was doing it riding a mountain bike. I was trying to ride a higher line, keep my speed through, not allow my inside hip to get too low because you
angulate, right?
Then I would angulate. Now it's same with a slalom ski. Now I'm losing speed in the short run.
So now
yes, I might be accelerating, but I'm also digging a hole. So it was learning to 100%. Go fast,
keep your momentum,
and
everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So the technique for the longest time I did on purpose on the berms in the parks. Like I do a lot of it's more into enduro rides now, right? But I was actually locking my front foot forward. I made sure that even when I was
I was doing the same.
I was doing it to counter.
Left foot, right foot. Exactly.
So now I'm trying to undo to do that habit. But that's just the part. I mean, and see where I'm going. So I have all these people from those sports that I'm 100% sure they would enjoy slalom, and I bring them here and they learn how to do it. But they rarely come back to get that drop. But I really wish that buzz of just running that awesome pass. I was so close to run the 35 off with my.
Got to get them to watch the webcast, the TWBC, because man, the HD quality and some of that is
fantastic.
I've seen people get sucked in, going, man, just the quality of the editing.
But it helps you understand the sport as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you can pull it up on YouTube. But so speaking of that, we're gonna get out of here. So thanks, Russell Marine, for being our sponsor today. You guys got to check out Lake Martin. This is absolutely unbelievable.
Do not check out the cabins. They're hard to get. Don't even try to book them. That's not necessary.
You don't want to push him further down on the rental list. Yeah. So anyway, same deal. Check out my merch. We got our stickers. We got towels, baseball hats, trucker hats. So all my old podcasts are also on my website, skiwithwade.com, as well as my tour dates where you might catch a ski ride with me like this guy did.
My brother-in-law can hook you up with one ski beer.
Oh, right on.
Joshua Malcolm, thank you.
Yeah, so anyway, we're going to get out of here. Ski with Wade, cut more rope. That's a wrap this week for Ski with Wade podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to email me at wade@skiwithwade.com or direct message me on Instagram or Facebook with any questions you may have. We'll cut more rope next week. Ski with Wade.